Hey everyone, it's Elise. Welcome back to my channel where I like to talk about all things personal finance. And today's cheat code may be a little controversial or uncouth for me to talk about, but I think that doing and talking about hard things is important. And this particular truth that I want to bring up is no difference. So the cheat code that I want to talk about in this week's video of the 5-part series is that being attractive is a cheat code to wealth. Now, for context purposes, I do want to ask you a question that I hope you will take some time to answer for like at least 5 seconds, that I believe is germane to the topic. And that question is, how do you feel when you are presented with pretty / attractive things? And those things can include jewelry, nice homes, paradise locations, music that is beautiful and attractive, clothing, art. How do those things make you feel? You were to take 2.5 seconds to think about the first thing that you feel, close my eyes, you'll probably come to the conclusion that you feel good, right? And I don't think there's any shame in saying that. I don't think that's shallow to accept what you initially feel when you are presenting with something good. And that is actually scientific. It's down to chemistry. And way back in my other life, when I was a healthcare professional, I remember my neuro block, several blocks we had to take, very poignantly. And in that class, I remember that we have these things called neurotransmitters as well as hormones. I don't want to ask me which one comes before, but I'm pretty sure it's neurotransmitters. But there are things that make us feel up and there are things that make us feel down. Sometimes they work together and even us out, right? But the things that make us feel good, there are several of them. And off the top of my head, there are a few that come to mind. The first one is serotonin, which serotonin is our happy neurotransmitter. And honestly, when you are actually when you are going through a season of the blues, is because you don't have as much serotonin as you normally would. Another one is dopamine. Dopamine is also one of the happier ones, but it's like a reward type of happiness. Like when you're feeling something good, it's like a rewarding feeling that you get, so you want to do more. A consequence of that is dopamine is found a lot of times in things that are addictive behaviors to us, which isn't always good, which most of the time is bad, but it's because we feel so good after it. And then I would also argue that somewhere in the mix of being around attractive things, that is consequential to us feeling good about those things is, I think this one is actually a hormone called Pitocin. And Pitocin is something in our bodies that actually helps us to fall in love. It's one of the love hormones in our body. And those things all work together somehow when we are poised with things that we deem attractive or beautiful. Now, once that happens, we also need to take into account that things follow. The first one is you accept proximity to that thing that you find attractive, which means you've been presented to it and you don't mind it being around you. The second thing that we tend to do is that we desire it. And if we have it, it's all good, but even if it's proximity to us, but we don't have it, we start thinking that it is something that we desire to have as our own. And then the next thing that happens, if we do have the desire, but it's not quite our own, we change our actions in a way that helps us actually have possession of that item that we deem attractive. As we feel all these things when we are presented with things that we deem attractive things, the same thing happens when we are presented with a person that we deem is attractive. And it is arguable that it's a little shallow, but there's no shame in acknowledging the feelings that you have until it is like to an extreme. Now, to bring in an example how being attractive is a cheat code to wealth, I think it's important to look at like different aspects of being wealthy. So one aspect is you are a business owner, and the other aspect is that you are an employee or a candidate to be an employee. If you're a business owner who is attractive or deemed to be attractive, you have less resistance to your plight as well as your pitch to someone who is new. Because if you're presenting to someone who doesn't know you, but you are attracted to them, and there are different aspects of just your blank canvas, but regardless, if you have an attractiveness to you, you more than likely have a lower threshold of being accepted. You probably have an easier chance of being accepted for them to even take a listen to what it is you have to say. Also, when you are a business owner who has that trait about you, you have an easier time of meeting with people and connecting with people because, again, people accept proximity to you. And the more people you know, which is called your network, goes to the old adage that says your network is connected to your net worth. You, through the network that you have and the people that you are getting to know and the people that you have gotten to know and build connections with, you have access to more opportunities, which leads you to more money. Now, let's say in the other example that you are not a business owner, but you are an employee / you're a candidate interviewing to get the job. If you're deemed attractive somehow, some way by the person you are interviewing for, it puts them at ease when they are interviewing you. Not to say that it's going to get you the job, but again, you have less resistance. Also, if you've made it over and you are an actual employee, if you are deemed attractive by your teammates and your employer for whatever reason, and we'll get to the reasons next, but you have less resistance. You are not always held to standards as opposed to if they thought you were unattractive, if you turn them off somehow. And it's controversial because no one wants to admit that. But if you think about it, you felt it. Either you felt it because you reaped the benefits from it or you reaped the opposite of the benefits from it. I don't think that one side is completely right and one side is completely wrong. But what I'm talking about is that if that aspect is present, it is something that we need to admit is probably amongst like what's going on in the situation. Another argument I have about attractiveness being a cheat code to wealth is that effort into beauty has the same effect of general beauty. Because again, beauty is the eye of the beholder. So not everybody thinks the same thing is beautiful. So that also kind of levels the playing field. But I think more people will agree than not that even if you are not their standard of beauty, the effort you put into your beauty will elevate you. And that comes down to nicer clothes, nicer hair, nicer accessories, nicer maybe makeup, things to elevate how you look. Bringing that effort brings the same effect of general attractiveness because that effort of making yourself nicer to your outside world is appreciated. People appreciate when you put effort into yourself. So at this point, I want you to think about someone that comes to your mind where you just have noticed they come to work and they are coiffed down. Their hair is always coiffed a certain way. Their clothing, you can tell they put a little bit more effort into it. They may spritz a perfume. If she's a lady, she may make sure she has at least a minimum modest makeup look on. Jewelry, if they wear a timepiece or if they try to generally have an appearance in them, you know in your head of some person who already has a nice canvas attractively because they are part of your standard of beauty. But even if they don't, someone who puts effort into their beauty, they kind of line in the same place with you. You appreciate the effort and you appreciate that they are attractive to you. And you probably want to be around them than not because you at least appreciate the effort that they put into it. This actually proves that everyone can be attractive. It's just that some people may need to put more effort into their attractiveness. Also, it's that attractiveness generally overall that leads to the increased wealth status over time. And that increased earning potential comes from, number one, when you look good, you feel good, and you do good. You just have better outcomes for yourself because you have a pride in yourself based on how you feel from putting the effort into yourself to get things done. Number two, people want to be around you. When people want to be around you, you increase your network and you increase your earning potential because you have more opportunities to make that money. And money over time being made increases your wealth status. Now, that's not the only thing, just like being young, being born into it, and being married is not the only thing that will have you be wealthy over time, but it is an aspect that can be used to propel you into that status if that is something that you are desiring to be at and to stay at. Now, pretty is as pretty does. It can be squandered if you are unattractive on the inside. But again, no one sees that initially in the beginning. They are just faced with your canvas. But attractiveness will not take you to the top solely if you don't do the other things, like showing up. Even models who are paid because they are beautiful, if they don't show up to their shoots, they're not going to get hired. Being punctual, being courteous, heavy on the courteous, because as much as beauty will make you feel a type of way, you know, with the dopamine and the serotonin and the pitocin, all of that, how you make someone feel also makes you feel a type of way. And I will say it is deeper than how the beauty hits you. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Maya Angelou, because I think she is the one that said people will never forget how you make them feel. So that's why I say pretty is pretty does, because if you are ugly on the inside, that beauty is forgotten quickly and people want nothing to do with you. So yeah, taking pride in your appearance is an asset that we all have access to, no matter if you have a budget going from Walmart all the way up to Chanel. It requires simple curation of how you present yourself to the world. That means simply being clean at minimum and being curated. And that's something we can all do, despite the canvas that we have on the outside just from genetics. And that's because all people like pretty things. You can deny it if you want to, but we know you're lying to yourselves. And for all of us who don't mind admitting it, we can agree, if presented with the question, is attractiveness a cheat code? If we were honest, we would answer yes. And there's no shame in wanting pretty things in your life. It's just admitting to yourself that you do. And there's nothing wrong with that. So that's all I have for this week, guys. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree, what your experience has been with this particular cheat code. And I will see you next week for the last topic, which is my most controversial so far. And that is being white / having less melanin. Meet me next week for that comment, that topic, because I'm sure people have a lot of opinions. Talk to you guys next week. Bye.